Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by these great sponsors. Axon started out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. Imagine having 100 years of tire and wheel knowledge in your back pocket the next time you sell a piece of ag equipment. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit axontire.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Valley Transportation. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransinc.com for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. This podcast is also brought to you by Ag Direct. No matter how you buy your ag equipment, from a dealer, auction, or a private party, Ag Direct can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving
Hello and
higher.
welcome to Moving Iron Podcast number 255. This is a redo because the first one didn't come out very good.
Audio
Problemos.
Audio issues.
Yeah, so we're going to redo 255. That's why if you're keeping score at home, you're like 254, 256. What happened to 255? Well, this is 255, right?
There it is.
That's right. All right. So in normal fashion, this edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. For more information, go to axontire.com. Aaron.
Yes.
I know it's been windy of late.
A little bit. It was, it's called April here, apparently.
Yeah. The month of April is like, oh, gale force winds.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like usually it's like, oh, it's 30 again. But
Yeah.
no. It's every day over 50. So it has been quite windy.
It's been very windy. So if you were out doing your sheep work and what have you, and you wanted to keep the dust out of your hair, would you like a nice hat?
I would. That would be fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, you're in luck, my friend.
Well, how
Our-
about that?
Our good friends at Axon are giving away for the month, this coming month here till they come back on again in May. They're giving away a free Alliance baseball cap.
Right on.
So send your details to marketing@axontire.com and they'll make sure to send you in the mail a free Alliance baseball cap. So you get that. So now you got a Firestone t-shirt last month. Now you got an Alliance baseball cap.
And you got some cold steel before that.
Got some cold steel before that.
Cold
So-
steel in your pocket.
So it looks like to me you're ready for a good fishing trip.
Oh, there you go.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
if you're interested in getting that free hat, send an email to marketing@axontire.com and they will be sure to send that out to you. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. You haul a lot of stuff at Valley.
Yeah.
I love working with those guys.
Terrific.
I mean, I just worked with them not very long ago getting something. It's just like, hey, Pete, do this, do that. I need this. Oh, yeah, no problem. We'll get right back to you. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, they hung up the phone and there's the piece of equipment.
Exactly.
Oh, sitting out there like an aura.
The best thing beyond that, because nothing's exactly really quick right now, but they know machinery, so you don't have to go and, oh, what is that? What does it measure?
Yeah.
What is this? What is that? It's this with these tires.
Yeah.
Okay, on it.
So a comment is that got the big tires in the front or the back? You don't get that
Yeah.
question. You don't
Show
get that
up
question.
with a box truck.
Yeah. I need what? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
I thought we were hauling a combine.
But I do like the fingerless gloves and Crocs and
Yeah.
sweatpants.
Yeah. All right. No matter how you buy your ag equipment from a dealer, an auction, or a private party, Ag Direct can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com. All right, Aaron.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick,
yeah,
I don't know that we've gone fishing together.
we've never been fishing together.
I don't believe so, because you're pretty serious about that.
Yeah.
And usually when you're pretty serious, I usually step back.
Yeah.
Other than this, But I don't know that we need to go fishing because apparently what you go fishing in is a t-shirt, a ball cap, and a knife, and that's it.
I usually have shorts of some sort on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, there's
typically.
That.
I mean,
okay.
I've had to do stranger things.
You never know.
Yeah, and sometimes when you go fishing, there's a few rules that you have to apply to.
Hey, what's rule number one? What's rule number one? Party? No, not party. No, it's not party.
If you're fishing, it's a party.
That I agree with.
Right.
There we go.
It's a party. Sometimes you catch a buzz. Sometimes you catch a fish. You know what I mean? It just depends on what you're doing when you're fishing, right?
Depends on what you're after more, I'm sure.
That is true. And sometimes it's both.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sometimes, not all the time.
Rarely.
Sometimes. Yes.
Rarely. I would prefer to just take the boat. Oh, darn, we forgot the rods at home. Now what?
Yeah. I've done that too.
Throw her in neutral, boys.
I've got all the way to the fishing spot. That's an hour and a half away. I'm like, oh, cool. You get the fishing pole and you forgot the bait. That's great. So cool. We're going to see if we can catch on these blades of grass. Yeah, doesn't always work well for everybody.
You just go into old case warrior mode and noodle everything.
At times I've caught snakes and then gutted a snake and then used it as bait.
Man, for real?
For real. Yeah.
Ugh.
I diced up the rest of the snake too, and I used little chunks of snake for bait, and you'd be amazed what you catch.
Man,
bull snake is not jack around. You know what I mean? So crickets, use crickets a lot. Done that. Grasshoppers.
It's quite a deal.
About anything you can find, anything you can fashion into a lasso works out well.
Lasso. I go to Red Lobster. Does that count? I go to Red Lobster and Long John Silver.
What show was I watching when they were doing that? My kids was watching with my kids. Like, what you do is you take this and you fashion yourself a lasso. I don't remember what show it was, but it was
lasso.
It made me laugh. So now I walk around the house all the time like I'm fashioning myself a lasso. So, all right.
Oh, goodness.
What we did on 255 last time is we talked about price increases, right? I mean, that's one thing that we've never really discussed here much on the Moving Iron podcast as to what that looks like. And the myth out there, is that if you raise prices by a certain percentage, all the used equipment comes right along with it. And that's true in this particular environment they're in right now. Whatever you raise the price increase, the used equipment folds right along with it.
To a point,
right? It's not like a 1-for-1 deal, but a 1-for-1 deal.
And it depends on what segment.
Sure does. Absolutely. Each segment's going to be more. Right now, if you're talking tractors, especially high horsepower row crop tractors, it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right. If anything, the used is ahead.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And there's been a lot of increases.
Yep. And that's one thing there. So if you're talking, so we'll just start there with tractors, right? So tractors have a 1-to-1 ratio right now. And I would agree. I mean, I'd argue that with anybody that if you start looking at, the 300 plus horsepower row crop tractor, even some of the smaller, 225 to 275, 280, like in their range, you're still seeing the similar deal that you would see there. Oddly enough, the one deal where I would say that, and it's been the calmest market probably in this whole thing, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the used marketplace is a little bit more available than others is some of these loader tractor ranges, right?
Yeah,
to some extent. I mean, anymore right now, everything's kind of bare, but I mean, up until probably, I would say 2 months ago, a loader tractor was relatively available.
Yeah. And it's funny to see because so much of what we call a loader tractor to us, so everybody knows, is typically 130 to 160 PTO horse size tractor.
Right.
So 7800s, 44 40s,
right,
on up to 6175 R's.
Right.
So many of those are state mowers.
Right.
So it's funny, the marketplace will be like, wow, there's like 3 out there. What are we going to do?
Right.
We've already had our 2 waves, and then 3 other dealers had their wave, and now there's tons of them out there.
Yeah.
So it's really cyclical because of that. And then the other thing, like we were as far as readily available being, like you said, the under 100, yeah, there's available. You can get something bought, that kind of thing. But in that, say 140 plus engine horsepower, 140 to 200,
right?
That is really hard.
Yep. It's definitely gotten to be a point where there's significantly less amount of those in there were, and it kind of goes back to, the state tractors come off.
Right.
They sat on the lot for a little bit. Guys kind of walked their way through what was out there and kind of checked down to what they needed next. And, here of late, the cattle buyer, they've come to the table and bought a lot of those up. I mean, they've upgraded from the OT series to an R series,
Yep.
in a lot of cases. And a lot of those have 10, 12, 15,000 hours on them, and they've got.
And the one that just left the dealership will have that many before it comes back too.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing there. But I would say overall, when you're looking at tractors, for the most part, it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Now, in normal times, when you go back to like a normal used equipment period, and I would say I'm going to preface this, when I'm talking normal used equipment periods, I'm talking like 2000, not 2014, 15, 16, right? I think that was a dip, I think I'm going to talk dip. Like, late 17 into 19. I would call that a normal period, right?
Yeah.
A normal period.
Or maybe like 5 to 8.
Yeah. That'd be another good period of time as well, where
5 to 8 you were kind of climbing up.
Yeah.
And the 17 to 19, actually 17 to 19 was pretty level. If not, you were ever so slightly ticking.
Right.
Just half a degree up.
Right. And because what you saw there was you had, you still had the 14s, 15s, and 16. The 12, 13, 14 model machines were still play. They're still out there, still an issue that we were dealing with, fighting through. But
they were thinning out.
But the manufacturers were coming off, 15, 16, and 17, some very lean years of manufacturing.
Right.
So you had a pretty steady supply coming back in, right?
Yeah. There was no flood to worry about.
No,
there just wasn't the machine.
You had a very manageable machine population.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Whatever you were talking about, whatever you were doing at the time, you had a very easy, comprehensive way to go through that and check down. Now you're still fighting the 12, still fighting the 13, still fighting the 14s, but you're still able to check down and work your way through some 15s and some 16s and some 17s, and the 1-year-old 18s or the 1-year-old 19s, and then all the wheels fell off in 20, and we had that whole thing happen. But with the coronavirus and everything else kind of slowing things down, but
right,
20 things sped up because there's a lot of CFAP money that showed up.
Yes.
That pushed a lot of guys into some profitable levels where they were like, okay, I'm going to go get my new tractor now.
Yep.
A newer tractor.
Exactly.
Whatever the situation might be. So that's one thing. But even then, I would say that if there was, whatever the price increase was on a tractor, you're probably going to recognize somewhere between 60 and 75%, I would guess, of that overall price increase. So if it's a 4% price increase, you're going to get 2.5 to 3% of that back to the tractor. Right?
I would say it kind of, with a tractor, with a row crop tractor, a Magnum and 8,000, a T8, whatever. With those tractors, in the leanest of times, you're probably down at 50.
Right.
And at the greatest times, you're probably 75.
Probably.
Normal good times, not ridiculousness that we currently reside in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's one thing to look at there, So let's jump over and take a look at what we see happening in, my opinion, would be the next. We're going to save combines for last because it's a whole podcast by itself. But
bring your scale.
Let's talk about sprayers. Sprayers and 4-wheel drives, to me, I think are two machines that when you are talking about these two rigs, for whatever reason, if one is hot, another one's not. And it's just been like that since I've been in this business. I think
and that's because they bounce off each other. I said
they really do. Yeah, they really
because do. You're either take the month of April.
Mm-hmm.
You're either tilling it or you're burning down.
Right.
You're not doing both typically.
Right. Yep.
So there you go.
And I would say that the 4-wheel drive has gotten to be a little more commonplace on a lot of farms than they have been, because they're very versatile now. I mean, guys are putting 3 points of PTOs on them. They're using them as grain cart tractors, tillage tractors, planting tractors.
There's a lot of 4-wheel drives anymore that are planting tractors, man.
Yeah, a lot,
quite a few.
And if you're looking at those things, so those two things to me, I mean, and those things will fluctuate. You know, right now, obviously, if it's a 4-wheel drive or a sprayer, either one, and it's available, you probably have a buyer for it.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's just
especially the 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's just a crazy time that we live in, and that is so.
A sprayer really kind of depends what it is. 4-wheel drive, though, I would say if it's a decent 9R under 5,000 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about price increase right now. I think the price increase on a 4-wheel drive to me is probably, you're probably 85 to 90% right now of that price increase being recognized by the used on both of those 4-wheel drives and sprayers both.
Right? Yeah, I would say maybe a little higher on the tractors, and there again, it's very spec specific.
Yeah, very
specification specific.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, we've had lots of guys that walked away from a 4-wheel drive because it didn't have PTO.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And PTO is less of a deal because you can throw that on, you can throw 3-point on. Lord knows if you do both of those, it's 6 digits almost anymore. Used to be able to do both of them for 25, but those days are gone. But the bigger thing is the high flow, because you can't add that.
No. And those are things that are just anymore with hydraulic, the size and speed of what we're doing,
right?
The hydraulic need for these machines is just growing and growing and growing.
Exactly.
So I would say in normal times, when I'm looking at a 4-wheel drive, depending on if they're hot or cold, that you're probably going to get somewhere between, I would say 15 to 60%.
Yeah.
Of that price increase will be recognized there. And the sprayer, again, sprayers kind of go in waves a little bit, like almost like planters to some extent, where we flood the market with sprayers and we wash out, and then they totally drain the marketplace of sprayers, and then go back and sell a bunch more sprayers, and then that kind of creeps back up, and then it kind of comes back out again.
Sprayers very rarely have like a steady, healthy market.
No, either we have way too many or not enough.
Right.
And it's just, and I think a lot of that is in the past, so many of these
commercial application.
Yeah, they'll go out and get their own, and they'll be doing good, and they'll say, you know what, I can afford that spray now. I'm going to go ahead and get that sprayer. I'm going to go use it, this, that, and the other thing. And then when it comes time to get a new sprayer, they're like, you know what, it's cost me about as much to have the commercial guy come do it. When I look at payment and this other things and blah, 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 my cost breaker it might be a little more for the guy to come do it, but I'm not going to upgrade my sprayer. I'm going to keep the one I've got, and what I can't get to, I'm going to hire the co-op.
Right.
And you see a lot of that back and forth there. So to me, I think
having my own sprayer was a great idea till I got that 3rd year inspection.
And I think that's when, to me, I think when you're looking at sprayers, it really depends on where you're at in that thing. But I would echo that 50 to 60% of the price increase.
Sprayers more so than the tractors. Of course, you're only dealing with 4 of the most common ones, probably.
Sure.
60, 44, 45, 38. For us, we don't do much for 30s and no 23s.
Right.
Of the previous regime.
Right.
Well, that's what would be out there used. So it's appropriate. I didn't screw up yet. When you look at those units, it's so hit or miss. When 44s first came out, you could have put $500,000 on a used one and got rid of it.
Right.
If it had the right stuff. Same on a 60. 45s, you either cannot give those things away, or you're trying to buy 30 of them to somehow touch demand.
Yeah.
And it's like through the years, the 38, when that series came out, was the end all beat all. That's the one you got to have. And it's like every year it loses a little mystique. Have you noticed that at all?
Well, I think because tank sizes, people want bigger tank sizes.
Right. But it used to be the big complaint was that the 49s, okay, back then, they're too heavy. They're too heavy. They're too heavy. Well, a 45 isn't lighter. But it's like now it doesn't matter. Oh hell, just
well, yeah. I mean,
now we need the big one, so just deal with it.
And I think that was part of it. When you look at some of that asked you now, you went, 800-gallon tank was kind of like the mainstay for a while. I want 800 gallons, and then the ASPs were getting we get that 1,000, and then the farmer was like, I want 1,000,
right?
And the ASP is like, I want 1,200 gallons, and then. Now you're kind of running an even mix between 1,000 and 1,200 gallon, depending on where they're at, what they're doing, what's a crop thing, what are they spraying, all these different things come into play. And you're seeing more people adopt, the 1,200 gallon tank size of machine. Now you got this big 1,600 gallon tank, it's come out now, and that's going to be, for the folks that've got a lot of acres to cover,
right.
Or, I could see some more ASPs going down that road. But again, it comes back to a weight issue and what are their trailers rated at and all those kind of things.
Exactly. The other thing, this is probably why the demise, good Lord, the slight downturn of the 38 is when it back in the 30 series, when that 48 came out, that was everybody's dream.
Mm-hmm.
So your field was wet and it was full because they had a lot with that 1,000-gallon tank. It was a lot of extra weight on that same chassis, pretty much. So the 38 comes out and your 47 guys, a lot of them jump to that. And your 48 guys are like, okay, cool. Now it's not uphill battle all day. And as those guys have either, you're dealing with a 47 size guy, 47-20, 47-30, he might now be teamed up with another 47 guy, or maybe he's the guy that, it's got 3,000 hours and it's in the back corner. And I called co-op to come spray.
Right.
I help as needed type deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be part of it too. It's just that you took 10 guys, made them 5, and 3 of them are still trading.
So I think from a price increase standpoint and how it affects the use, the more we talk about this, the more I think about it, and it's so pocketed.
Yeah, like right now of the used sprayers, the going from highest percent to new,
right,
to lowest, I would say 60. I would go just right down backwards down the list.
Yep. And I would
maybe 44 above 45 if it's the right 44.
But if you're in the South,
the
smaller tank size is a bigger deal than the
correct
thing, what I'm saying? Like it's a swap, like here we want the most gallons we can go out and spray because we have huge open fields to go spray.
Exactly.
We got 132-foot booms.
Yep.
We're out there just getting after it. And then you go down south though, like Mississippi, for example, and you talk to somebody down there, they're still running, 400 and 500 gallon tanks.
Oh yeah, like 6,700.
Yeah.
It's like they'll sit on top of the hood.
And
what's funny? If a sprayer that we would have such a hard time selling in territory, and I wish we had 10 of them a year because I can sell every one of them, is a 4030 with a 90-foot boom
and a poly tank.
Well, not so much that, but
yeah. So I mean, it's very pocket south. Depending on where you're at, that price increase is going to have a bigger effect.
Exactly.
On what it is that you're doing. You get up into the northeast. You get in like Pennsylvania, Delaware.
They would have no idea what they're going to do with that 4060.
No, man, they'd be spraying a field and they'd
take the outer booms off.
I mean, some of these fields. I mean, I've talked to, we've had I've had folks on from up there and they're talking about the field size they work with.
Oh yeah.
Like, so it's a whole different thing. So
Yep.
pretty much what you see in the Midwest, you know, the high plains in the Midwest and those kind of things, when you kind of get out on the peripherals of that, the east and the west side of that, size really shrinks, really shrinks. And,
Oh yeah.
and so that's going to have a big kind of caveat as to what that looks like.
You get more people too.
Yep. And same with 4-wheel drives.
Yeah.
Someone runs a 4-wheel drive in some of these areas, bigger row crop areas, like in the South, for example, you know, they don't see a lot of 4-wheel drives down there farming. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You see a lot of 4-wheel drives in there, you know, building dikes and, you know.
Yeah. If it's a
doing
4-wheel
those kind of
drive,
things.
it's got a pan.
Right. And, you know, so you see those kind of things, but you get into like Ohio, I mean, 4-wheel drive isn't necessarily that out of whack. It's not necessarily.
No, there's lots of, even small farms got one.
That's like that's like where the 9410 with the 3-point PTO and
right,
you know, 480 rubber was kind of, that was that area, you know.
Yep.
That whole area. So again,
well, and that's what, like that tractor, that's what makes that tractor so cool, because from C to C, it's used somewhere.
Right.
It's a planting tractor from here to the Mississippi.
Yep.
You know, then it's either a planting tractor or it's the tillage tractor. And then you get into the Eastern time zone and it is a tillage tractor.
Yeah. So depending on where you're at, price increase is going to play a big effect, in my opinion, on sprayers and 4-wheel drives.
Yep.
More so than anything else. Right. All right. So now we'll drop down to planters, right? Planters and seeding equipment, just, and as a whole, planters, drills, discs, you know, not drills,
air seeders
and box drills, those kind of things are all going to start playing effect there. So the air seeder marketplace is a wheat area, right? So if you're big wheat area, the price increase is going to have an effect on the used. If it's not a big wheat area, I don't know that price increase really has that big of a play, because you're looking at your customer base and what that looks like, right?
Exactly.
Right. So if you're in, you know, South Central Kansas and you have a 60-foot air drill, you probably have a better marketable area.
You must not have it advertised.
And then if you're in, you know, even up here where we're at, I mean, there's wheat where we're at, but it's not dominant of a crop as what
I've noticed we still to this day still sell way more 42s than 50s and 60s.
Sure.
Big time.
Yep. And those big 60s are, you know, that's the West Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle, Western Kansas,
right?
That kind of stuff where, you know, where you're doing
Middlebury, Connecticut.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
I don't know if you can unfold that in the state.
You have some problems there, but so to me, I think the seed, like wheat seeding stuff, to me, air drills, those kind of things, that's a pocketed deal where, you know, you don't have. It just depends on where you're at and what that looks like.
I would even maybe say it plays off the actual crop market a bit more than corn, soybean stuff.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, for instance, air drills, rigid drapers, take those two things. I feel like if the poverty grass, if you will, if the price is good on it, you're gonna realize a lot of, maybe even extra of price increase. But if it truly is poverty grass, you're gonna get 0, 0, 0. That's what I mean.
No, I think
there is a point with that stuff where we've been there. We've been to a point where please do not trade another air seeder. Oh, look, it's another 42-foot, 10-inch.
Right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Yep.
Park it by the rest. You know, we've lived in that world where there is 0 increased realization.
Right.
And that's because of the actual market.
Right.
You know.
Yep. Yeah. No, and I think that's probably a good point where you're at market base wise, because you're not selling a rigid dripper head or a rigid pickup head or anything like that, finger pickup, something like that, or bat reels or something like that. You're not selling something like that.
Right.
Unless you're
Exactly.
going into some kind of a grass crop, whatever that
Right.
is, if it's wheat or rice or whatever, what I mean? Like there's
Yep.
all that stuff that you got to play into. So, okay. Planters. Now planter is more universal, right? Because if you're planting corn or soybeans or whatever it is that you're planting row crop wise, you're using a planter, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some guys will use their air seeder to plant soybeans. Some guys I've seen guys, even knew a guy once that used an air seeder to plant corn, but
Yeah, I've seen it.
So, I mean, wasn't the prettiest field on the planet, but I mean, it worked, right?
Yeah.
So now if you're looking at those things and you're figuring out what's going on there, the planter market right now, I mean, I think the price increase on planters has been 1-for-1 for a long time. And it's been that way strictly because of sheer numbers, right?
Right.
So since like 2018, I would say the price increase has been pretty close to a 1-to-1 deal.
Right. Planters have kind of been living in a world that everything else has now joined.
Yeah. They're like, hey, what do you guys, you're just now starting to perform. Cool. Well, we've been doing it for a while.
Right.
We're what you call a dynasty.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think planters are, and the thing about planters too, is that the used market is getting to be a little bit more receptive to some of the stuff that you can put on planters.
The fancy.
You know what I mean? Some of that stuff, I wouldn't say it's all universal because planters are probably the most fingerprint thing on the planet. But I mean, when you start looking at fertilizer systems,
you have guys making that jump, like what we always talk about with combines, the 9600 to S670 jump.
Right.
You have guys doing that with planters now.
Right. Yeah.
They have heavy duty down pressure springs,
right,
mechanical drive, and they're like, well, if I'm going to trade planters, why stop halfway?
Yep, exactly.
I want the EE, man.
Yep. And I think that's the one driving factor that we're seeing in planters. And I think
if they have the tractor for it,
and that's the thing where I think that you start looking at some of the stuff that you got to look at, even on, some of these row crop tractors that they're pulling 24-row planters with. I mean, you're able to go 8 to 10 miles an hour, no problem. But you start running your hydraulic.
Oh,
heat,
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just like what we talked about earlier. So, I mean, those things all have a huge effect into what you see happening there. So I'd say planters right now are 1-for-1. If not, they're like 8-to-1, 80, 90% of that price increase is recognized on the backside of that. So, all right. So that leaves us with combines, and combines to me are a
commodity.
Yeah, I mean, even to this, even where we're at right now, your overall marketplace is going to be continue to struggle. I mean, it's better than it's been, dude. Don't get me wrong, but
in a daily battle on the front lines of combine world, there are still problem units out there.
Yeah,
tons of them.
Sure.
12s and 13s still suck.
Yeah.
They didn't all of a sudden become worth 150.
Right.
Yep. They're now, they're not 65 soft.
Right.
But they're not 100 plus soft.
Right.
Strong either.
Right.
So they have bounced a little bit, but with that price realization thing, right now, you certainly have it in a 1-year-old.
Right.
By the time you get to 2-year-old, it's a year, hours.
Right. Yep. So I would say in the best of times we're at right now, in my opinion, I think a used combine recognizes probably 50 to 60% of the overall thing. And that really comes down to what's available where you're at, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get it.
If you're in an area where you have hardly any 1 or 2-year-old, 750, 500 separator or less combines laying around, I think that your demand is going to be way stronger. I think you're going to see you're going to recognize way more of that price increase, right?
Yep.
If you're in an area where you already have a bunch of, and what I mean by a bunch, I mean like you have some sitting on the yard, right? Of of that thing.
Yeah.
Who knows? You're probably going to play that back and forth a little bit, but in normal times, I think you're lucky to get 40 to 50% of the combine of the price increase to be recognized.
I was going to say 25 to 30. And that's because you get mad if I said 0.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There were times in, 14 and 15 where they didn't have any change in pricing.
Right.
The new one went up, but the used one didn't follow it up.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
It just didn't happen. And most of the time you didn't recognize that until you were into the second trade before you really recognized that.
Yeah.
That, you know what, I didn't really see.
Well, back then that might have been a Bullet Rotor 60 series, and that does have a little premium
It might
to go south.
Yeah, might have been. So that's my 2 cents on what we see as price increases go. I mean, we talk hay equipment, those kind of things, but I think hay equipment is very I think the price increase is levied by what the ability to produce hay for that year is.
Right. It's kind of like the wheat thing.
Yeah. I think if you're in a heavily irrigated alfalfa area, that's a whole different conversation than if you're in grass hay, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's also kind of a whole different line of machinery too.
Oh yeah. It is. Yeah. Totally different deal. So that's that there. So, all right. So we got a new segment that we're going to discuss here. It's brought to you by Tractor Zoom and it's coming from their Iron Comps package that they have. So Tractor Zoom, I think they got a really good thing going over there. I think that what they have to offer is something unique that we don't see in the marketplace, and it's unbiased data, right? I mean, they just give you data, right?
No skin in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they're just saying like, here's auction data. We got 500 plus people reporting auction data to us, and here's it is.
We're just collecting data. We ain't got no lamb in the show. There it is.
Right. So each month each week we're going to discuss kind of where we're at for auction values. And basically we're going to go 3 years back, 2 years back, 1 year back, 6 months back, 3 months, 1 month, and then what the current month looks like. And the idea being here that we're going to start seeing trend lines develop over time. And this is for the month that we're currently in. So April right now. So we're going to talk about April, May we'll do the same time frame, May 1st through May 30th and what that looks like, so on and so forth. So that's where we're at. So we're going to start with tractors and kind of run through that. So broke the tractors out into 3 different categories. So you've got the basically what we would call a loader tractor, the 100 to 175 horsepower tractor. Then you've got the 175 to 299, which would be somewhere like a mid-level row crop tractor.
Yep. And
then you've got the 300 plus, and that's what that tractor. So the 300 plus tractors are going to be all your high horsepower row crops and all your 4-wheel drives too. So that's what's going to fall into that.
Right.
So we'll start at the top here, and I broke it out into 2 different segments. One is the total machine population for that time frame, as well as what 5-year-old and newer machines are doing at that time, right? So the reason for that is the proverbial canary in the coal mine thing I talk about when it comes to auctions is what 5-year-old and newer machinery is doing at the auction. That's really what you're paying attention to. And to some extent, you can say it could go all the way out to 7 to 10 years out. But to me, whatever a 5-year-old or newer machine is doing at auction month over month has a hell of a lot more play in the marketplace than a 10-year-old machine.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's where the dollars are at.
And that's what's in demand typically. Right. So we'll go from there. So 3 years ago, which would be, what would that be? 2019, in April of 2019, the average auction value for 100 to 175 horsepower tractors were $18,527. The 5-year-old and newer were $56,633, right? So you fast forward again to a year, so 2 years ago, so 2020, in April of 2020, the total machine population auction value was 21,103, and the 5-year and newer were 50,627. So you saw just a tick drop in that range there too. So a lot of that had to do with 1, machine population, number of machines that were out there, and 2, what was being auctioned off at the time, right? So go 1 year ago, so 2021, the average was $28,024, and the 5-year and older, or 5-year and newer, sorry, was $49,216. So you're seeing a steady decline in value.
Right.
That's what we said. Now, jump up 6 months ago, the 5-year-old and newer jumped up to $69,000 on average, right? $69,091. And the overall machine population average was 24,936. 3 months ago, 24,107 for the total population, 67,231 for the 5-year-old and newer. So that, if you're looking at that, what that tells me is that less machines were available to be auctioned, and that what they had out there was some high-hourred stuff in this particular particular venture.
Yep.
Higher hour than what was out there 6 months ago. Right.
Yeah. You know what's interesting also is,
so my point is higher hour machines are bringing about the same amount of money that lower hour machines are bringing 6 months ago.
yeah, which you've kind of been flying that flag a little bit.
Yep.
Because we're missing blocks.
Big chunks.
We're missing the initial block,
Yep.
which slides everything down. No, what I was going to say real quick side note, it's cool starting this in April. And then because your first 2 months are going to be your 6 months back.
Yeah.
Is very important because that's November and December.
That's right. Yep. Exactly right. So 1 month ago, 22,535 for total machine population, 55,423. And then the current month so far this month, in April, 26,686 for the total machine population, 75,569 for 5-year-old machines. So that's a huge premium even over 6 months ago, because these particular tractors had 2,000 hours on them.
Right.
So
absolutely.
right. All right. So let's jump down, talk about the little tractors at 175 to 299 and kind of what that, I'm sorry, mid-range row crop tractors and what that looks like. Total machine population 3 years ago, 49,366, 5 years old and newer, 120,277. Okay. Fast forward a year, 50,457, 163 for the 5-year-old machines. 1 year ago, 44,543, 149,250. 6 months ago, we had an average price of 40,873, and I couldn't find any mid-range row crop tractors that were auctioned in that time frame. Didn't have any numbers available. And then 3 months ago, 49,573, and then 148,750. And then 1 month ago, it was 58,821. So now you're starting to see it climb up, right? 58,281, and then 152,764. And then your current month is 49,537 with an average auction value for the 5-year-old and newer stuff at 136,10. Okay. So probably what I need to do here when I lay this out is kind of show, one, A, is what's the number of machines out there, and B, what's the average hours that you're showing,
Right.
so you can see a better picture of that, right? See what that better picture looks like. Okay. All right. Now, when you look at 300 plus, this tells a very strong story of what we see happening here. I mean, this shouldn't be a big shock to anybody. Okay. So 3 years ago, the total population was 78,954 with a 5-year old and newer average of 149,960. 2 years ago, 93,272 and 191,618 for the 5-year-old and newer stuff. So you see a huge jump there, right? I know year over year. You see even a bigger jump. Now the average drops a little bit here, drops down to 88,693 for the whole population. But the 5-year-old and newer stuff really popped at 223 even, right? So you're even up another 30 grand over that. So you went 50, so you went 40 grand year over year between 3 years ago and 2 years ago. You went another 40 grand over that for 1 year. 6 months ago, the overall machine population the average was 70,151. I couldn't find any 5-year-old and newer comps to pull there. So I'd go back and take a look at that again, but I searched and searched and searched. I couldn't find anything. 3 months ago, 108, 239. So you had a huge jump there. You had a jump from 6 months ago, you had a jump of what, $38,000 for just the average across the entire spectrum. 209 had a little bit of a drop in what the overall value was for the 5-year-old and newer stuff. And then 1 month ago, it jumped up to 113.5. So you had about a what do you have, like a $5,000 jump there in the overall average, and the $300,000 average for the 5-year-old and newer. So you jumped $91,000 in 1 month. Now, granted, again, that's hours and those kind of things, but still, it's 91,000.
That's
what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't care how many hours. I don't care.
No matter how you scale that, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's big.
It is a boatload.
So currently, right now, we're sitting at about an 85,151 total machine population average, and your 5-year-old and newer is 312.5. So you even had another $12,500 jump in average auction value so far, even just from a month ago.
Damn.
So put that into perspective. So if you're not using if you're in this business and you're not using Tractor Zoom's iron comps, I highly recommend that you do it. It's a great place to source what you're doing. They've done a really good job of really collecting that auction data and making it easy for you to source it, right? They don't, it's unbiased information. It's just being reported in from 500 plus people out there. So check that out. So check out Tractor Zoom. That's where their slogan is. And I like this slogan. It's one of my favorite ones, where diesel meets data.
There you go.
I dig it. It's one of my favorite things. So with that, I feel like it's a good stopping point. Make sure you check out the Tractor Zoom's iron comps. Make sure you check that out. It's well worth your time. Give those guys, Kyle McMahon, the guys over there, a call at tractorzoom.com and they'll get the contact information there when you have a chance to see that. So I feel like it's a good place to stop podcast here for today. Aaron, folks want to reach out to you and get more information about what it is that you're doing. What's the best way to do that?
I'm pretty active on the Twitterverse at @AARonFintel. Also under that on Facebook and LinkedIn. And you can call me, text me, 308-760-1193, or email me, aaron.fintel@MovingIronLLC.com.
Outstanding. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All that's at Moving Iron LLC. Go to LinkedIn if you follow me there. That's the Moving Iron Podcast on LinkedIn. And then there's the Moving Iron YouTube channel called the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel. So check that out. Also, I'm on Snapchat as Old Case. Check me out there and you can find me there. You can do that. And last but not least, if you're interested in coming to the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville, Tennessee, well worth your time. We talk about the same kind of stuff we talk about on here. And plus you get a lot of good information from some people out there that are going to tell you about the economic drivers that you see happen that are going to shape and mold this business throughout the next year. So well worth your time doing that. If you want to check that out, go to MovingIronLLC.com, go over to the Moving Iron Summit tab, click on that, scroll down, and you'll get all that information that you need there, how to sign up and those kind of things. So check it out. If there's any information that you want to hear more about that on these, the iron comps stuff from Tractor Zoom that we're putting out here, and hit me up at Moving Iron Podcast, MovingIronPodcast.com. And I will be sure to research that for you, and we'll talk about it on the podcast. So with that, I am Casey Seymour with Aaron Fennell. Let's go some iron, folks. Out. Sun Tire is going to have more tips, tricks, and client advice throughout the year, and in September at the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville. If you're looking to sign up for the event, please head over to MovingIronLLC.com. We hope to see you there. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransitinc.com for all of your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And no matter how you buy ag equipment from a dealer, auction, or a private party, AgDirect can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving